Good morning, everyone out there in internet land. It's a sunny Thursday in Binghamton, New York. And I don't live in Binghamton, New York. I live in Shenango Bridge. But, I tell you all the time how the post office insists I live in Binghamton. So I always say that. And you know what? It's not Colorado. Gosh, I wish it was Colorado. Oh, and my guest today, Janine Bolon, she's laughing because she lives in Colorado. Janine, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on, Yvonne. It's a pleasure to be here, and hopefully we can help a lot of people.
Yes. So this is Smart Conversations with Yvonne DeVita and Janine Bolon today. And let me tell you a little bit more about her. We're going to talk about her book. So author, podcasting, fabulous. I mean, I would read the whole book to you if I could, but no, I want you to buy it. So here's a little bit about Janine. Janine Bolon has been in broadcast media since 1987. Moving from being a part-time radio show host to audio blogging to podcasting, she started writing her own books in 2002. Her company, the 8 Gates LLC, produces 4 podcast programs, 15 online coaching classes, and markets 10 of her books. And so this leads me to believe, Janine, that you're an alien.
Thank you.
How could you do all that?
Yeah, well, as a single mother, when you have 4 children and you need to pay rent or mortgage or however, all those moms out there, you just do what you know you have to do. And when you have a burning desire to be of help and you know yourself to have a purpose, you live it 100%. There is no sitting back and sitting on your laurels or anything like that. It's always like, I got that one book out, great. The next book is in my head, pushing itself to get out. As you know, in your book, which by the way, I love your book. I've handed it out to so many people. And it's so important that people, if you have a book running around in your head, that you get it out there. And Yvonne is one of those people that she's dedicated to helping you do that. People want me to help them with writing their books. I'm like, I'm not your person. So definitely reach out to Yvonne. She's your person. And then I'll help you promote that sucker.
Yeah, well, see, and that's what I want to talk about, because promotion is such a big deal. And many authors, they kind of know this in the back of their head. They're like, okay, I'm going to write the book. Let me find a book coach. Let me talk to Yvonne. And then Yvonne says to them, well, that book isn't going to sell itself. And they deer in the headlights. They don't know what to do. It's almost more of a scary thing for them than actually writing the book. So talk to me about this fabulous book, Author Podcasting. And I'm changing views every now and then because I want people to see this book is going to change your life. Author, pre-author, writer, whoever you are. Tell us, why did you write this book?
Okay. So author podcasting, just to clarify, is how to be a standout guest so that you can take your book on a virtual tour. It is not about you starting your own podcast. Sometimes that happens. But what drove me to write this book was the fact that I want to take 7 years off authors' learning curves. That's my goal. I don't want you to take the 7 years it took me from 2005 to 2012 to figure out how to get a book funnel or how to create a readership that would support me as an author. Okay. And so that's one of the things that's my goal for everyone, is that you be able to make enough money at your authorship, at your book writing, that you can afford to write the next book. Because what sells book number 1? Book number 2. And what sells book 1 and 2? Book number 3. And by the time you get into double digits, which is what my kids call me, I'm a double digit author. I'm sorry, I love that. Anyway, but by the time you get into double digits, and I know you may be working on your first book and you're like, oh my God, I'm putting everything I can into it. Trust me, the process gets easier. You get your stride. The whole point is that first book is you are laying down concrete. You're putting down a foundation of habits. And I know you talk about this, Yvonne. So that's why I'm just trying to support you in that. Lay down that foundation. And once you do that, then we can move forward. And the very first thing that I would like you to think about is create a website that has your name,
Mhm.
Don't worry about the book's title or anything like that. Just have your name. And if your name is taken, then use a nickname. Or if you're terrified of having your name out there, then pick a pen name and then stick to that name in everything that you do. Because then with that pen name, people can find you. Gone are the days where we try to have cute names or what have you. You really want people to find you. And if they're holding your book and your pen name is there, that's so you get yourself a website like that. Now, the second thing is don't worry about populating the website. Don't pay $5,000 to have somebody build it. Please do not do that. You're just going to buy the domain name. And then after you do that, you want to build your media kit. And your media kit is what Yvonne was and I was talking about. You can get a free course when you buy my book. There's a link in the book called Reader's Bonus. And I usually charge $197 for people to go through that short course. Why? It cuts 7 years off your learning curve. It's worth $197. However, if you buy my book, you get it for free. Why? Because I want you to then take that $197 and buy a spot on my radio show, because all 4 of my podcasts have syndicated and we are now on 2 different radio stations broadcasting to 4 different states. And so we really have leveled up on our stuff. So that's why I'm offering it for free to you. By the way, people can't find that link unless they either A, buy my book, or B, they listen to a podcast or a radio show like this. So just wanted to let you know, it's not something is not on the front page of my website or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's really important for writers to know, that page. I think that's something some people are reluctant to do it, or they do what you said. They go and they get someone to build it for them and they're paying all this money. And then they're like, now what do I do? I've got this page. So I really love how this book helps take people step by step through their media kit, which is what they will put on that page. And let's talk a little bit about media kit isn't the same as a press kit from the old days.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Especially if people remember what press kits used to be. There's a lot of folks like myself who remember press kits. So back in the day when reporters used to run for payphones because they had deadlines, I loved that line. But when they used to do that, they were handed a cardboard folder, a paper folder, right? And inside of it was all the material that reporters and broadcast media personnel needed to hit their deadlines, because broadcast media and newsprint all have deadlines. We're writers. We know this, there's deadlines. There's always deadlines.
Yeah.
And so you want to hand your, in my case, a radio show host, or Yvonne, a podcast host, you want to be able to hand that host everything they need to promote you and to know about you so they can build out their questions. Now, in the media kit that I walk you through step by step in the book, it is different from a press kit in that everything is digitized. And so you want to make sure that all the content that you're posting on your media kit can be shareable. And we talk about how you can do that. I actually have a link in there where you can take the online course. And then one of my videos that's 45 minutes long actually walks you through, this is how you get onto Google Drive. This is how you make a Google document. This is how you click the share link. It walks you through all of that so that you can then support your podcaster. And it's all about driving traffic from all these wonderful podcasters. If people are interested in what you have to say, it's about driving the traffic to your website so you can build your email list. The most powerful tool you have is your readers. And your readers want to hear from you. And if you promise them you're only going to email them once a month, then they are more than likely to sign up and more than happy to sign up for your email list. And you'll have a very high open rate because you're only emailing them once a month and they're hearing from their favorite author or one of their favorite authors, right? And they want to hear from you. So it's a lot of fun when you build your media kit. The whole purpose of it is to help your podcast or radio show host or MSNBC or whatever show you're on to be able to drive traffic to your site.
Yeah. So, when a writer is so focused on getting that book done, I tell them like 2 or 3 chapters, four chapters in, I start saying, so how are we going to sell this book? What are you going to do? And I have been telling them the last probably year that they need to be on podcasts. So the fact that your book came out now is just golden because you're supporting everything I say, of course.
No,
And
Yvonne, you're a smart cookie. You know what you're talking about.
and the really good thing that you said earlier is that I do the coaching. I don't do the marketing. I don't do the here's the how to do podcasting or media kit or anything. I know that. I study it just like you. I keep my hand in the business so that I know what the heck I'm talking about. I don't do it, folks. You want somebody to do it, you talk to Janine. You get this book. This book is golden. I did what are those things? Review on Amazon, and I will be doing a video review for my podcast, but or my blog. But Janine, the being on podcasts and having a media kit also then helps you prepare yourself for being there. So because it gives you, right, you're giving them the tools and the information they need to be on the show. You're not just giving them a sell sheet. Here's my sell sheet. It's actually, here's what you do to be on the show.
It's amazing because when you put a media kit together, you automatically rise to the top 3% of guests. Most people see you immediately as a professional author. You are branded immediately in the mind of a podcaster or a videographer or whatever. All the broadcast media immediately sees you as a professional because you're sending them a link to your media kit. And then you're making it so that they will be able to pull content from there. So that's the first step. The second step is, in your media kit, have a variety of headshots. Now, some authors, especially if this is your first book, it's your debut book, it's okay to just have one picture that's a professional headshot. That's the one that went on the back of the book. That's totally fine, especially if this is your first book. So don't feel pressure here. But what we want to do is maximize what you're already doing. And so the second thing you want is have pictures of you. And if your kids don't want to be a part of your publicity campaign, don't put your family there. But if you have a picture of you and your dog, or you and your cat, or you like horseback riding, or maybe you went up in a balloon and you have a picture of you guys taking off when you went balloon, riding, whatever. Have some things of you that are not in your normal headshot. Like, they show you as a person that's going out and experiencing life. So whether you're fiction, nonfiction, it doesn't matter. And sometimes my how-to authors, the ones that write the nonfiction, they think that they have to keep all their headshots in line with what's going on with that book. And I'm like, please don't. We want to expose and share and give expose. That's what I was trying to say. Give an expose on you as a human being on planet Earth. We understand that as authors, you are multidimensional beings. You have to be, because you're writing from multiple perspectives, especially if you're a fiction author and you have to create your own world. You're doing world building. You're creating characters. You're having story arcs. I mean, the perspective, and then all the research you have to do. So when you're sitting, as one author said, she was sitting in the Library of Congress and she was holding a book. She was holding a document that was written by one of the founding fathers, which is George Wythe. And as she was standing there holding this document, she had a picture taken, and she has her little white gloves on, because they make you wear white gloves. You're not allowed to bring anything into that rare document room. And as she's holding it, she's just beaming. And so she had the librarian take the picture. And so we use that in a lot of our promotion of her, because she is in her, I am holding a document that was written over 215 years ago.
I'm getting chills. You're giving me chills, because this is so very important. You have to give the reader, the podcaster, the reader, the reader, and the people that you are going to be interviewing, your podcasters, your radio hosts, you have to show them you're a human being. You have to give them the experience of you, not just your book. Because while books help people get on podcasts, and I tell them they help you get into conferences as a speaker or a keynote, in the end, the person, it's always a person thing. It's always a people thing. That's why in my authors' books, I beat them over the head sometimes to put in the stories of things that have happened to them. Let's tell that story. We'll be having a conversation and they'll tell me this story that something, and I'm like, why isn't this in the book? We're putting this in the book. And is it, I mean, stories are really, really important. So the story of you is what this is going to help you. Author podcasting is going to help you tell. And so Janine, tell me a little bit about before you became, I know you're an alien because I don't know how you do all this stuff, but before you became this person with these 4 syndicated podcasts, folks, what were you? Who were you?
Okay. Well, I'll back it up a little bit. I started off as an analytical biochemist in the pharmaceutical industry. So that's where I learned my automation and robotics. And back at that time, Bluetooth and Wi-Fi was not common yet. And so my job was to automate with hardwire and using RS-232 cables, how to connect and get machines to talk to each other. And so that's what I was doing. I was in robotics and automation back when it was just only geeks. And like you were saying, you're calling me an alien, only aliens did that stuff. And so I was weird because here I was a chemist, but I was working with engineers. So I then became the automation liaison. So that's where I learned to take 2 very different trades and get them to talk to each other. Because when you get chemists who are the end user of the automation on one side of the table, and the engineers who want to build the world's best and most efficient robot on the other side, totally not thinking about what the chemist needs as the end user. That was a lot of fun. So that's kind of where I come from. That's where I learned systems and technology. And that's what I want to do with authors. I don't care if you're an author that still bangs out your story on a typewriter because that's how you learn to write and you stick with that. I always encourage writers, stick with what helps you with your creative flow. However, once that is done and you start the editorial process and you start working in the higher level processes as far as refinement, that's when you want to start thinking automation. So make sure the back of your book always has a way for your reader to get a hold of you. And I'm sure you already talk about this, Yvonne. I'm just going to, give you confirmation. She knows what she's talking about. When it's about the author section, always put that website down there so that they can go and they can get on your mailing list, especially when you offer them character sketches about the book. Like every new book that you have had to do hours of research. I don't care if it's nonfiction or fiction. You were researching where your characters lived. You were taking pictures around town about, oh, that's a beautiful building. Oh, I think my character Joelle will stay there. I think the angels would be operating in this kind of, it doesn't matter. And so taking those pictures and using those as part of your blog posts. So people are like, but I'm terrified to talk to my readers. I'm like, your readers totally dig on what is the story behind the story. Lord of the Rings did that. Lord of the Rings showed proof of concept. Peter Jackson with that total movie franchise and the filmmaking revolutionized the film industry. He said, people want to know the magic behind the story. And they bought extra, right? He refused to allow his movie to go out on VHS. Remember old VHS tapes? That's when he produced it. DVDs had just come out, people, and he knew there were hours of film that he was going to pack into that DVD for you. Okay. And so that he even has eggs. He was so far ahead of his time. So forgive me for geeking out, but for you, we have proof of concept. The story behind the story is just as powerful.
Absolutely. And I really love the blurbs about the author that tell us, well, she lives in this place and she reads and she sews and she makes quilts, or, she has 4 dogs. And it's quite engaging and welcoming. So talking about the back of the book also, one of the things that I push my authors to do, and we think about it while we're writing the book, is, so what do you want the reader to do after they're done with the book? Because Janine, you don't want them to pick it up and put it on the shelf and forget about it, right? You either want them to buy the next book, or for my nonfiction authors, you want them to take a workshop. You want them to join your community. You want them to be part of what you're building. And so to your point, you put the website, you put the community link, you put the workshop you're doing, and we work on those things together, because I always say the end of the book isn't the end.
Not with the relationship. You don't end it with the relationship like that. You don't slam the door in your friend's face as they leave and say, see ya, you don't do that. And so what I like to talk to your debut authors first. You're a debut author. You're overwhelmed. because your book is finally done and you want to heave a sigh of relief and you celebrate that. Okay. When you get that book in the mail and you look at yourself on that back cover, I want you to celebrate that, throw your launch party, relish the fact that you have completed a Herculean task. Okay. And then as you get ready to move forward, I want you to think about, as you're writing the back of the book, I would highly recommend, and this is something Yvonne and I have talked about, and that is when you have your website link, have your website link with a / and another page on your website. And this page is for my readers. Okay. And it's special to your readers. It's the people who are actually reading the book. Okay. And if you do audiobooks, you can also say that. It doesn't matter. They don't care if you call them readers or listeners. They understand. So anyway, you say for my readers. Okay. And on that page is what your next book is going to be, the concept, the idea. And I have encouraged debut authors to take out their pen and paper, and even if they have to do stick figures, because the book cover comes into your head, or the story, or the character, even if you have to draw the character as a stick figure on a piece of copy paper with a black marker, and you write out, put that image up first and say, my next book. Okay. And you give the raw, unedited crap that we as authors have that float in our head on as a description. And then you say, I would love for you to be my beta reader for my next book as I build it. And you invite them into the creative process. Let me tell you, that keeps you on your deadlines, because ever since I started doing that, I have written 8 books on time, hit my deadline every time, because I had anywhere from 22 to 74 people waiting every day for the next chapter that I was supposed to be writing.
That's really fabulous. And I hadn't thought about doing it that way, but that's wonderful. And I want also then to point out, because you mentioned it earlier, part of what we were talking about, seldom does anyone write just one book. If you are a creative person and you are a writer, you are already thinking about book 2. So I love the idea, Janine, of the stick figures, because what we're talking about here is authenticity. And that's becoming a cliche because it's so overused. I mean, Janine, we've been writing about, you have to be authentic on your blog for 20 years now. I don't know how long, but the reality is you have to be what we said. You have to be real. You have to be a person, and you can let your guard down. Your readers will love you all the more if they can see the real you and know that, hey, you have flaws, and this is something, Janine, that it's one of the things I pick on my authors for, is when they're telling stories, and I'll read the story and then we'll get back on the phone and I'll go, I think there was a little blood in that story, but I didn't see it on the page. You have to bleed on the page, because you know what? That reader's bleeding.
Yeah.
Right? You got to show that blood.
Right. My most popular blog post was titled "When All Hades Breaks Loose." And it was a day that I had that was not a fun day for me. And I talked about the mental process that I went through, and it ended up becoming a how-to blog post, even though it wasn't originally. As I was writing it, I was venting. And I went and I did edit some of it, because I have many people who don't like cussing, but when I wrote it originally, and so I would use the cuss word that was in my head at the time, but just blot it out, because I have some readers that are sensitive to that. So anyway, so I wrote it all out. It was very real and raw, and I got more hits on that blog post. It was shared all over the place because it seemed that I hit a nerve, because there was something happening. And this is before 2020. This was back in 2017, but it was just something was happening, and it's still one of my most favorite. People still hit that blog post when they look at my list, when all Hades breaks loose, and they still hit that. And that was one of my most unedited, just raw rants that I had. Now, I don't recommend you do that all the time, but definitely be real, right? Because they know me as a positive person. They know me as an upbeat person. I'm always creating something new. I'm always inviting friends. Come on, let's do a webinar. Hey, Yvonne, let's collab. It's like, they know I'm always throwing a party. But to have a day where that was not happening in any way, shape, or form, they enjoyed being able to see into that little part where I was having a downtime. And my readers, oh my gosh, I got so many comments, buck up, you'll be okay. And I had people going back to my books and they were taking quotes of mine out of it and literally using my words to try to encourage me.
Yes,
It was
is that.
beautiful.
Yeah, that is just
Yeah.
the epitome of wonderful, isn't it?
It
When
is.
you're
It totally felt the love, man. I love my
and
readers
that's
so
the
much.
point, right? That's the
Yeah.
point. So we're coming to the end of our time because I know we each have a hard stop coming up, but I want to recap a little bit that, and I'm going to go back. I have you on full view, but I'm going to go back to gallery. I really want people to see, this is the book, Author Podcasting, Janine
Thank you.
Bolon. And I'm going to read a little bit of the back because this is really so powerful. I don't want anyone to miss this. This is a guide to the author who wishes to promote their book without coming off as salesy. And that's another thing that people worry about. I'm not a salesperson, they'll say. And, sometimes I say, too bad you have to sell. Podcasting is a form of marketing that can be done completely virtual, requires no expensive equipment or new software, and just needs your participation in a quiet room, something you already have as an author. So inside, you will discover how a media kit sets you apart as a professional guest for show hosts. This is the big one, and that's why it's number one in this bulleted list, because you want the show host, make it easy for the show host to say, this is the person I want to have on my show. What a media kit is and how to build it for podcast hosts' best use, how to get into more podcast programs, including some email scripts. I provide email scripts also for how to get beta readers and things. A checklist of things to do after you've been on a podcast. Now, that's a huge one also that we didn't touch, but it's in the book, everyone. So you need to get the book. I'm promoting the book. I am. And no, I'm not getting rich promoting the book. I'm promoting the book because I want my authors to succeed. Janine wrote the book because she wants all authors to succeed.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
So,
And thank you so much for having me on the show. And I highly recommend people that once you write that first book and once you get over that first Herculean task, it does get easier. And what we're trying to do is help you lay a foundation so that you can continue to create. I want you to make enough money so that you can create the next book and the next book. And that's the whole point. It's not to make money so that, you're on ABC News or Oprah Winfrey or whatever. It's so that you can continue to create your craft, whatever that is that brings you joy.
excellent. And everyone, I will have all of Janine's contact information and what you need to know and a link to buy the book in the blog post and on the YouTube description. So Janine, thank you so much for sharing such really valuable information today.
Thank you. You have a great day.